Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
3, 2, 1, and all that stuff. Welcome to this week's episode of Stay Off My Lawn. This is all pre-production talk here. Don't get distracted.
We're on a roll today, folks.
It is April 8th, 2025, and this is episode 112. And my voice doesn't crack like a 15-year-old, but we'll continue.
Golly gee, Mr. Willikers, I don't know.
Anyway. Mr. Willikers, yeah, he always looked at my sister kind of funny. I don't like it. Anyway, we will kick it off with our new segment called...
It's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
And here we go. We kicked off the week Sunday being the official Plan Your Epitaph Day.
Well, I missed it.
It was Sunday, so I mean, maybe you felt good about things on Sunday because you got your moral duty of going to church, maybe. And if you look at it that way, you need to talk to somebody because that's not what it's for. But anyway, yeah, Plan Your Epitaph Day. He was he was semi-okay, I guess is what maybe I could put on mine. I have no idea. Yesterday was National Beer Day, commemorating the passing.
I celebrated all day long.
This is commemorating the passing of the Cullen-Harrison Act, which is on everybody's tongue lately, which legalized the sale of beer with 4% or less volume in 1933. It was the first step towards ending prohibition, which would have been repealing the 18th Amendment, which actually happened in December of that year. So prohibition was a terrible experiment. It didn't work, and that's why we haven't done it again. So there you go. Tomorrow, since nothing really is going on today, I couldn't find anything for today. So today is a free day. You do whatever you want, I guess. Tomorrow is National Name Yourself Day, which these are just so stupid. If you hate your name, you're supposed to experiment with nicknames. Again, it seems like these aimed right at people that have too much time on their hands. They have no idea what else to come up with. Anyway, Thursday is National Siblings Day. Say hello to your brother or sister. If you don't like them, please disregard. It's not a law or anything, so don't worry about it. Yeah,
I didn't know if I had to or not.
No, I'm here for you, man. National Pet Day is Friday, so give them an extra treat that day. By the way, there are 80 million households in the U.S. that have pets, breaking down roughly to 80 million dogs and 86 million cats. So the cats are winning. So if you were inclined to buy a dog, you need to get caught up. You're behind by 6 million. And finally, Saturday is National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. I love me some grilled cheese. You like grilled cheese? No.
Never been one of my favorites. Sometimes on a cold winter with some tomato soup, it reminds me of my grandma's house. So,
okay.
But other than that, my wife likes it. It's not one of my things.
Yeah. If it's made right, I mean, it's got to be on the honey wheat toast. It's got to be toasted on honey wheat bread.
Oh well.
I go to the store yesterday and I asked for toast, and they just looked at me funny. So I didn't know even know where to go.
It doesn't come pre-made. Sorry. You have to put some effort for it to make that. Not much, but some.
Not much, just a little bit. And Saturday is also my mother's birthday in heaven. She would have been 103 this Saturday. So shout out to my mom. Let's start off with a word on tariffs. Seems to be on everybody's mind. I've gotten a lot of text messages and Facebook messages from people going, what's going on? It's like, and Richard and I were talking about this off the air. It's like, you know what? If Trump is right, we're going to be in great shape. If he's wrong, which very well could be, my faith is not in Donald Trump or anybody else. If he's wrong, we're screwed. It's just the way it goes.
But it doesn't seem to be going wrong, and that's what's driving the Democrats nuts, is because are having some pretty good success.
I
We've got
agree.
already countries coming. Yeah. No, we'll cut that out. We'll be 0-0. Vietnam went,
Vietnam,
oh, wait a minute.
just
We
like
don't
that.
want to. The European Union's capitulating.
I think
You've
the
got
only
all
one,
these that's like, it's that this stuff is nonsense.
I think the only one that has not somehow wanted to go to the negotiation table was China. China just said, heck
They
with
still
you.
don't. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're saying, we're raising our tariffs 35%. Trump could go ahead. We'll
Right.
put 50 on it.
But and they always go back to history, which is a good thing. We need to look at history to learn from it, so we don't make the same mistakes again. It's true in your personal life. It's true in politics, especially. But they say that whenever these tariff wars have started in the past, it has ended up being disastrous for whatever country has started it. But I think it's different with Trump at the helm because this is what he does. He's a negotiator. He wrote that book, The Art of the Deal. I mean, it's kind of in his wheelhouse. He knows what he's talking about when it comes. Now, there are other things that he's not very good at, and hopefully the good outweighs the bad. And but anyway, I do think that on the tariff thing, I think he seems to not be flinching, which I'm sure that's what they're hoping for. So.
Well, it's, who has the cards, and they're going, but we want to sell our stuff to the U.S. because we're the biggest consumers in the world.
Yep.
And so, it's like, okay, cut us off.
Especially with people like,
just like Canada's, that Ford out there with his chest all puffed up. It's like, oh, well, we're going to take away your electricity. And it's like, maybe we can talk because it made this much difference, a little itty bitty, tiny, minute bit of difference to our trade.
Yeah.
To them, it was like what, 35%?
It was a lot. Yes.
It was huge. And they went, this isn't going to work.
But again, I think that just like anything else with these kind of things, you need to zoom out and say, all right, what could be the overall game plan here? And I think that's what we need to look at. And like you said, with Vietnam, they folded very quickly. It was Friday or Monday. Yesterday, it was supposed to be implemented, and now I think that they're at the negotiating table, ready to go. I don't know whether they've struck a deal or not yet, but I mean, we get a lot of raw materials from Vietnam.
Yeah, there's been a lot of folks come to the table talking about stuff, and that lady and Madam President, whatever she is in Mexico, that said, "Oh yeah, no, we'll talk." Oh no, now we're not gonna. No, and now we're gonna. Oh well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where they're at the moment, but I think that they've kind of come to some sort of an agreement. I'm kind of lost as to where that's at.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know.
But you know what? If you don't understand tariffs and you don't understand what's going on and why it's being done or what's the general gist, if there was only a device that nearly everyone has in their home, you can find out about
like a computer, maybe?
Why, that's a novel idea. We
idea.
ought to get one of those.
If you don't have one, we have a clip that kind of gives you a little bit of a historical point of view, non-fear-mongering historical point of view on tariffs.
Yes.
Here we go.
It's important to remember that tariffs aren't just tools for trade wars. Before income tax was introduced in 1913, tariffs were the main source of revenue for the U.S. government. Tariffs protect American workers and industries from being undercut by low-cost, lower-quality foreign goods, allowing American businesses to compete and thrive. By levying tariffs, we maintain jobs and encourage domestic production, both crucial for national security and prosperity. Tariffs also help the U.S. negotiate better trade deals, pushing other countries to lower their trade barriers in exchange. So, who would oppose tariffs? Globalists. They take advantage of cheap labor and lax regulations abroad. They take advantage of you. Enough is enough. Let's keep jobs in America and use tariffs the way our forefathers did. To protect our economy and our future, we need tariffs, not taxes. We need to put America first and begin a new golden age.
So we'll have to wait and see how this goes. But again, like we said before, I think this is going to be, I think it's going to benefit us. And I think it'd probably take until the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year, before we really see the benefits of all this practically.
I think all of the negotiations and stuff probably will be done by September. That's just my opinion, because I don't think any country wants to be last. And, well, maybe we do want to negotiate. And that, boys and girls, is how tariffs work. It sounded like a 50s.
It
And
did.
now, as you can see in this video, we have...
What a great voice that guy had. If he had actually a good microphone, it would have been an incredible voice, I'm sure.
He probably had the best he had for the time.
Yep, absolutely. Former White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany pointed out the other day how the Democrats' attitudes towards tariffs have changed over the years. And I think this is what you and I were talking about before the show. It's got some historical stuff in it.
Meanwhile, House Democrats, this is interesting, are trying to stand in the president's way with a vote to undo his national emergency declaration, that order that will give him tariff authority. But this newfound hatred of tariffs from the left stands in stark opposition to what Democrats were saying in the past. Roll the tape.
In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal?
What they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street.
We had a tire case in which they were flooding us with cheap domestic tires or cheap Chinese tires. And we put a stop to it. And as a consequence, saved jobs throughout America.
Emily, the context to that Obama soundbite is that he implemented, oh, wait for it, tariffs on China. I believe they were to the tune of 35%. So, oh, how interesting how you just have this riveting change in heart when the guy's named Donald Trump.
You know, and that's a great point because, you know, it's been a tool for both Democrats and Republicans up until this point and nobody jumped up and down over it. I mean, but of course, all of a sudden now it's the devil's toolkit now.
Yeah, well, and if you didn't know who those two folks were that were in the, that was a lovely young Nancy Pelosi making a very good point. Sounds like it could be made today, but no, Donald Trump is proposing it, so now it's horrible. Yeah, well, she proposed essentially the exact same thing, and then, of course, if you couldn't tell who Uncle Bernie was.
Our favorite socialist.
Yeah. Oh, they can. Wait a minute. You didn't sound like a socialist back then.
I actually made a note here because I thought of it as I was recording that clip. The first voice was Vodka of the Month founding club member was Nancy Pelosi. But anyway, of course, then we had Barack Obama, which you know, obviously it's just common sense. I mean, there are some things that he had said and done that I agreed with, just like Bill Clinton. I mean, if you look back at some of the things that Bill Clinton did, man, it's like today he'd have been labeled as a terrible conservative. I mean, some of the things. Not everything, but
yeah.
So anyway, Kayleigh's right. The only thing that's different is Trump. And we've been hearing more and more from Batya Ungar Sargon lately. I think we've had this is our
easy
third,
for you to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Bless you. But I think this is our third week in a row we've played a clip from her. But here she is schooling a panel on the Piers Morgan show just a couple days ago.
I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things like that countries stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging war. I'm waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. And you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do, because I'm not going to stop fighting for the American working class. Suddenly, everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them. We have already seen these tariffs work, Pierce. The number of people crossing the southern border is at zero. Fentanyl is at record lows for the last 10 years. We have already seen $1.2 trillion in manufacturing invested in this country since January 21st. So they have already worked. Now, how long is Wall Street going to keep trying to punish this president for standing the American working class? I don't know, but I can tell you that the view from the street is people cannot believe that there is a president who is working for them, who is putting them first and telling Wall Street to go screw itself. Wall Street, which picked the Democrats for the last 3 election cycles in a row. That's what the real story is here.
I like her spunk, but
boy, she was wound up tighter than a tick. As
she was. She was. But how many companies have we listed off in the past here on the show that are deciding to invest in America? Hyundai's building a $5 billion plant, I think, to make raw materials for their car plants in Georgia and somewhere else. I forgot where the other one was. But
Apple's building a bunch of stuff, going to build a big facility. Well, all of these, you got all these workers. It's going to take time to build these. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. Everybody wants change now. Doesn't work that way.
But it's a step in the right direction, something that did not happen the last 4 years, unfortunately. I think that the better these jobs come out with, and plus there's going to be a chip manufacturing plant here, which should have been done 2 decades ago, in my opinion. But instead, we've been relying on Taiwan, which has been under the threat of Chinese thumbs over there. So, it'd just be best if we made our own pharmaceuticals, our own raw materials, and became a big exporter like we used to be in the past. I think that would be good for everybody, and hopefully we're moving in that direction. So. The anger from the left is pretty bad lately. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. We're up against a break when we come back, so hang in there.
Stay tuned for more of the stay off my lawn, peed, but the thing. Anyway, they'll be right back.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Way Too Much Cologne Wearer.
Mr. Way Too Much Cologne Wearer.
Like a bullhorn, your cologne announces your every arrival, 4 blocks before you get there.
Here he comes now.
Here a splish, there a splash, everywhere a splish splash. You don't stop till every square inch of manhood is covered.
Everywhere a splish splash.
Overslept and haven't got time to shower? Not to worry. You've got 4 gallons of cologne and a plan. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Way Too Much Cologne Wearer, because we think we smell a winner.
Mr. Way Too Much Cologne Wearer.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Why would I do that? Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 2, and something happened. We're not going to tell you about it.
Wow, we kind of both screwed up.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
You made a mistake, and I didn't want you to feel all alone, so I made one.
See, there we go. That's what we do. It's what you do when you care about somebody.
Right, it's teamwork.
With all the fear-mongering from the left, we're seeing more and more anger also from them, the extreme left anyway, especially the keyboard warriors on social media, which has always been a problem ever since there's been a social media. Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri breaks that down somewhat for us. And the funny thing was, he did this on the Senate floor. Keep that in mind as you listen to what he had to say.
President Otto-Pin was the commander-in-chief. No questions about his inability to construct sentences, let alone foreign policy. But here we are with a fake story. But this is what happens when you have a party that has reached actually not rock bottom yet. Not rock bottom yet. But they got nothing. Zero. No issues, no leader, fringe issues define them. So they're going to glom onto the story of the day. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing for them. Just like, by the way, these calls to, come out against violence. The only thing, district court rulings, the only thing that's been talked about are political solutions. The only person I remember standing in front of the Supreme Court calling for a whirlwind on Justice Kavanaugh and other Supreme Court justices that were followed up by assassination attempts of Supreme Court justices that were followed up by violent protests outside their homes where they had to move out of their homes was Chuck Schumer. And as long as we're denouncing violence, how about firebombing Tesla dealerships? This Antarctic kind of strain runs through the left. And to my Democrat friends, I feel bad for you because your party has been captured by a radical element that is pro-Hamas, that is pro-violence, that is firebombing, Tesla dealerships because they don't like that Elon Musk has actually found the grift out and is cutting it out. The NGOs that have laundered money for Democrat causes for years, it's all coming to an end and they don't know how to handle it.
Well, he laid it out, laid poor Chuck out in lavender, didn't he?
Wowzer. That was laid out with a hammer.
I think it needed to be said, though. I like it because
that's why they're so PO'd over stuff is all these, almost every single thing. What was it? Like 95% of anything that came out of USAID, USAID was all leftist stuff and money. And they're trying to figure out, well, it went there, but where'd the rest of it go? And there was more slush funds than you could slop a dripper at.
Slop a dripper. I love that. It's another hee-haw reference if you need to look that up. But yeah, it just seems like, they're always trying to say that the right side of the party is the violent ones, but it's always the left. They're the ones that burning the police cars and buildings and stuff. Whenever anything goes wrong somewhere, and if somebody does something wrong, okay, we need to punish that person. It doesn't mean we need to start burning things down. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it just reminds me of a little kid that was just told, no, you can't have any candy. We're going to have dinner in the next hour, and you're just going to have to just hang tough for a little bit. It'll be fine. And then they just start, having a temper tantrum, and that's essentially what they're doing. Yeah. It's all of a sudden Musk, who was a hero 6 months ago, is now the worst thing on the face of the earth because they're finding out all this stuff. And it's like, no, you weren't supposed to look behind the curtain. I told you not to look.
Like the hands-off protests, like hands off. I mean, why would you not want somebody to verify that our tax dollars are going to the right places or are being spent on the right things? Why wouldn't you? Unless
I don't like paying taxes anyway, and then it's going to what? Yeah. It's just being thrown away, or it goes out and then comes back to the Democratic Party, who then doles it out for all these elections. Supposedly it was a lot of money from Soros that was going for the elections. Oh no, he spent like $200 million of our tax money. Yeah. For the last election because it went out and made a boomerang back, and then he redistributed it.
He did. He got a lot of district attorneys elected, poured a lot of money in those elections, and it's like, so he's really working very smartly for an evil guy. He's very smart, but I mean, that's what's happening, and that's our tax dollars at work. It's really, really sad.
And his son is now taking over, and there's pictures of him with every Democrat gentleman and lady that's in the upper echelon. He's got his arm around him, and they're all chuckle, laugh, and it's like, okay, Alex is coming up the ranks, making contacts, shaking up things and hitting the road.
If he wasn't ready, his dad wouldn't have handed him the keys. So apparently he's all ready. Well, it seems to be we're hearing more and more about activist judges approving injunctions on presidential executive orders. And it seems like we haven't really heard about that much in the past. The latest one is where those MS-13 and Tren de Aragua gang members that were here illegally were sent to be imprisoned elsewhere.
Costa Rica, I believe.
Yeah, it was somewhere in Central South America. Yeah. Dan Ball from OANN was talking to South Carolina Representative Russell Fry on how those injunctions have escalated.
Even Democrats didn't understand this. How many injunctions? You're saying over in the modern era, judges jumping in and trying to create an injunction to stop a president, 90-some% have happened under Trump. Is that his first term and this term? Over all the presidents in the past modern century? Is that what you're saying to me?
It's 2/3 of all injunctions in the 21st century have come to one president. That's Donald Trump.
Wow.
And of those injunctions, 92% were issued by Democrat-appointed judges to the bench.
There you go. But it has nothing to do with politics, right, Russell? This is all the law. They're following the law. There's no politics being played here, right?
No, none at all. I mean, there's no forum shopping that's going on. There's no, pick a plaintiff in a friendly court jurisdiction and get a nationwide injunction. And here's the thing, too, I think that your listeners need to understand. The Constitution is very clear. The court is there to solve cases and controversies of people that are in front of them. And so anytime that you see a nationwide injunction, which really didn't start until the 1960s, but anytime that you would see that, it's very rare that that actually happens, except if you're Donald Trump and you've got 2/3 of them in the modern era.
Yeah, Russell, how the hell does a judge, a district judge, right? It's a federal judge, but he has a district. How can he make a ruling that affects the entire nation when the president is elected as our top executor by the entire nation and a judge is appointed?
Yeah, again, like the congressman said, the judicial branch officially, according to the Constitution, is responsible for interpreting laws and applying them to specific cases and ensuring the laws are consistent with that Constitution. So,
and they haven't been.
No.
You turn that plane around and it's apparently somebody was complaining. You turn that plane around right now, or we're not.
Sounds like the car when our kids were little.
Yeah. It's like, are you serious? They were already in the air. Trump told them, no, it's not coming back. Sorry.
Supposedly, by the time he heard it, I don't know how true this is, it was already over international waters. So it's like, we can't do anything
it's like,
now.
Oh, golly shuckies. I mean, good Lord.
No matter what your politics are, how do you think that violent gang members that are here illegally should remain here? How in the world do you think that? I mean, the one argument was, well, they could have cured cancer somewhere down the road, or they could have, put a man on Mars.
Oh, please, that's not what their occupations are. Give me a break.
unless you take enough fentanyl, you think you're on Mars. I don't think that's really. It's not what they were here for. Oh my God.
No, it's it's been overturned now, so yay.
Yeah. Thankfully. Very rare, very close though, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 5-4.
Yeah.
Only because Amy Coney Barrett went to the dark side again.
Yeah. Well, those chief justices have been disappointing the last 20, 30 years anyway, a lot of their decisions. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt closed down the matter very clearly when it was brought up to her, and she's fantastic.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration.
It was an immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them, allegedly. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position, and very strongly so.
Again, it's about perspective. She laid it all out good.
I got nothing to say to that except bravo. It's like, no, you're not going there, and I'm not going to allow you to. And here's the reasons why. Okay, done. Moving on.
Seems like her binder is full of good stuff like that.
Yeah, but she really doesn't come out with much of a binder.
No, she doesn't. Not
just
really.
She scary to look at stuff and remember things that way would.
I know it. America's New Majority Project, something I had not heard of up until last week, is an initiative led by Gingrich 360, which is a new multimedia production company.
Okay.
Don't pick on me.
Sorry. I couldn't let that one fly by. Anyhow, it's a new initiative for what?
Yeah. It's a multimedia production company run by Newt Gingrich and his wife Callista, and polling partner McLaughlin and Associates. Last week on the Mark Levine show, he was talking about what he's involved in now, and they ended up talking about the activist judges also. And here's that.
At the America's New Majority Project, we just did a poll last week. 81% of the American people believe the federal government's corrupt. 81%. This is an enormous danger to the survival of freedom when you have 8 out of every 10 Americans believing that the core system is corrupt. The House and the Senate have an obligation to bring these judges in, to interrogate them, to understand the normal constitutional boundaries, to look at the historic precedent, and then, if necessary, just abolish their courts and cut them out of the game or cease paying for them. The current situation is intolerable, and it is a direct threat to the system of self-government that is at the core of the American model.
I think the main point there is 81% of American people polled don't trust the American government. So
no, and they're also not trusting our elections, which is not a good thing either. There's just too much hinky stuff going on where there's no way in hell 81 million voted for that corpse. There's just no way.
Yeah, and if you look at the voting over the years, I mean, 2020 had tons more votes for the Democratic Party than in all of history, or in 2024. Not even close. I mean, they came from somewhere. It came out of somebody's
Yeah, they did. Maybe not legitimately, but they did come from somewhere.
It certainly wasn't organic votes, I don't believe.
No.
When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about not trusting government. This one goes back to 1978, which was a couple of years ago. Maybe some of you remember that, like Richard and I do. But anyway, back in 1978, they started lying to us that we remember anyway. And we'll go over that story when we come back. So hang in there.
The old guys return with more Stay Off My Lawn in just a minute. God help us.
They say you get wiser with age. So, this year, I'm giving myself the gift of a hassle-free credit card. Capital One allows me to monitor my bank, has 0% fraud liability, and dependable 24-hour customer service. It's the wisest gift that keeps on giving.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. And what was that quote you were telling me during the break?
Recording stopped.
Oh, my bad. I was just saying that 95% of all scientists 100% agree with those who are paying them.
Yeah. I mean, if you
whatever they want them to agree with, it's like, okay, yeah, we can finagle the numbers so that it looks like that.
Yeah. You get paid by the NIH to promote a drug or something that has oily anal discharge or something. You don't want to, leave that off the side effect list. We're going to be okay. Gee, I remember one of those diet drugs. That was actually one of the side effects they said on national television was oily discharge. Oh my God!
What?
I think I'd rather be fat. I'm sorry.
It's like no. May cause, including death. What? What was that last one? What? No.
Then, of course, on the TV, they're out there playing frisbee and everything's just hunky dory. But
we're all so happy and we're dancing with the.
Yeah, everybody's great.
Right up until you go.
Pay no mind to the oily stain on the back of my shorts. But anyway, the government
got a problem? Take a pill.
And then if it causes problems, take another pill that fixes that.
This will fix the last one that we gave you that was supposed to fix the problem that now is. Yikes.
Yeah, that's that. Hopefully RFK gets to the bottom of some of this because we are just so over-medicated as a country. But another story for another day. The government does wonder why we don't trust them. And I think it started a lot further back than the beginning of the COVID thing. There was a TV show back in 1978 hosted by Leonard Nimoy. It was called In Search Of. And he had this to say in 1978.
What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
And the minds got changed of those scientists somewhere along the line, and 4 years later...
Can I stop clutching my pearls now because he scared me?
I don't know. I would still clutch them anyway, but
I remember that coming out, and it was like, yeah, no, we're not going to be in a polar. And we went about our regular life.
I mean, nobody. I think we had talked about this off the air that I think in 1978 there was a particularly cold winter, but I mean. It's weather, not climate. And even still, it just seemed like
a few moments later,
we did have, it was in,
I love that.
I think in 1982, Dan Rather hit this breaking news story.
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil.
See, I think that everything changed because all of a sudden they were like, well, we got to go against coal and oil. We got to go against energy. I mean,
give me a break. It was like, what? But we were all going to freeze. What am I going to do with all these extra coats I bought?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just 4 years ago. I still have the coats. I live in Florida and I bought a parka. I mean...
they talk like the Earth has been the exact same way it is right now forever and ever. No. Why do you think that they're finding dinosaurs and stuff in Montana, which they would not be able to live there now and didn't when the Ice Age hit?
Certainly
how many
not.
millions of years ago?
The Ice Age, I think, was the Younger Dryas was 12,800 years ago, according to scientists. According to the ones that are actually honest about things. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I mean, that's up for debate. But who knows?
Yeah, you're not going to have all these cold-blooded animals way up north in the U.S. and in Canada, and all of a sudden. Now it's all frozen and then it's all warm and it's kind of in the middle of the coldest period. And what they keep going back to was in the 1850s, there was a minor, what they have been saying was a minor ice age.
Yep.
So that's really cold now. Well, yeah, it's warmed up. What? 2 degrees?
Well, that's why they always go back to that time frame. Well, basically because they really didn't keep very good records of temperature prior to that, but they use that, and of course everything looks warmer because it came from that mini ice age that happened in the mid 1800s. But and we found that out from those ice core drillers that they've done in the Arctic and in Greenland and different places, and they know what the temperature was from those ice cores that they get.
The ice cores where they have scientific labs in Antarctica. Mm-hmm. And they've drilled down and there's little bits of air trapped in that ice and stuff that they can do. I'm not a scientist. Don't ask me how it works. I've just listened to them talk about it and went, Wow, you sound real smart. But these are the honest ones who were saying this is what was there, and yeah, it's all a bunch of pahooey.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it is incredible, but they do manipulate those numbers, and the right does it too on certain things. But I mean, I just wish there were scientists out there that are just honest, more of them that are honest. And of course, when they are honest, they get blackballed from their industry, which is always great for everybody's mortgage payment. This past weekend, Saturday, there was hands-off protests that went all over the country. There's supposed to be 150 of them around the country, and hands-off meant don't let Elon Musk touch Medicaid or Medicaid. It's like all he did was say that everybody over 120 years old, which there isn't any, should be deleted from the system. Saving would you say you saw the number about $1 billion?
It was something like $1 billion or more. I mean, there is so many millions of people that are getting these checks. The thing is, the checks are going out. Somebody's depositing them somewhere.
And they should be
They're going
prosecuted,
into
in
an
my
account
opinion.
of some sort, slush fund, back pocket for their next election. I don't know.
Again, if you're taking something that doesn't belong to you, I mean, I just don't, I don't know how you don't get prosecuted. I think you're a criminal doing that kind of thing. Your dead grandmother, if you're still cashing her checks, shame on you, and hopefully they catch up with you. But anyway, this whole hands-off thing went around the country. There were at least some paid to be there. How do we know this? There was a girl that went and applied to be in one of the protests. I think it was in Washington, D.C., and was basically undercover just to find out the inner workings of all this. And here's her protest report.
I was one of the paid protesters at the April 5th liberal protests. And so I just wanted to come on and talk about my experience, what I had to do to get paid, and how much I got paid. So there were two kind of parts to it. The first was obviously just showing up. They gave me like a time and a place and told me to look for a girl with blue hair and a nose ring, which I thought would be really hard because I thought
There's
everyone
so many of them. Which
that,
one?
But luckily, she was the only one. It was really easy to find her. So yeah, that was good. I checked in. They told you that you couldn't wear anything MAGA. They also asked you not to wear red. So I just wore a black t-shirt and jeans. And I checked in, and then they said just go on the march, and then at the end there would be a questionnaire to answer. Oh, and then the other thing is they said they would pay extra if you brought a sign. So I did bring a sign. Again, same thing, couldn't be MAGA, had to be in line with the liberal agenda. So my sign said everyone deserves a good education, which I don't necessarily personally agree with. If you're gonna be a server or a mechanic, you don't really need an education, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted the money. And I didn't want to draw attention to myself. So that's what I went with. So anyways, I went on the march, and then at the end I had to check back in, and yeah, I got paid. I got paid $100 for going to the protest. And then I got paid an extra $10 for bringing the sign.
So she got $110 to show up, and okay.
Oh, Lord. And then I saw one this morning that is kind of hard to have when it's visual, but the lady was videotaping. It was in Texas, I believe, 2 big buses of people. And then they were going over to this SUV that was just layered with posters and crap in the back of this SUV. And people were coming over and getting their signs that were pre-made for them. And come on, next. Come on, get your sign right here. Get your sign. Red hot signs right here. Anyway, so she was filming that was going on in this parking lot that was a ways, a few blocks or whatever away from where they had to go do their little march with their hands off. And all the crap that keeps being said is, oh, they're going to cut your salt, scaring old senior citizen people just fries my gizzard. AARP is the worst. their latest little magazine thing comes out, and where you're not going to get, and stick it in your ear. None of it's going anywhere. They are cutting the waste and the fraud, and there's a lot of fraud in Social Security. When you've got how many millions of people was there? Something like 10 to 12 million that were over 120 years old.
Yeah. That's where you.
Wow.
But that's kind of what Doge was all about, to find those kind of things and get rid of it. And of course, Elon's been taking it on the chin since all this started, and it just doesn't seem. Again, why would you be against cutting the waste and fraud? Why are they so against what he's doing? And that's all he's doing. Nobody has lost any benefit, to my knowledge, since all this started. Not one person has lost any benefit they're entitled to. It just hasn't happened. Of course, he's cutting all this stuff in real time, and if it has happened, then we would have heard about it. And
I've not received any letters of any kind that you have to prove that you are who you say you are. I've been getting Social Security for 8 years now, and everybody is inundating the phones with the Social Security Department because they're saying, well, you have to prove who you are, you're going to get cut off. That's not what it is. It's for if you're over 120, we need to know who you are. If you're that old, good for you. But I haven't seen anything. I'll go online and check, but they're saying even looking at stuff online, their servers are just inundated right now.
Yeah.
So it's, and I've not heard it from anywhere except for BS little articles that don't make a lot of sense. And there's nothing official coming out from the Social Security Department.
No, not really.
So,
no. And
I'm not going to worry about it.
You and I talked about this last week or the week before, that they're actually cutting out the phone calls or whatever. You have to do everything online to apply for Social Security and make changes.
For if you want to, you have to come in and do it in person, because 40%, 40% of all calls going to Social Security are fraudsters.
Yeah.
Well, I've changed my bank account and I'd like it to go over here. And then all of a sudden the person calls in and goes, hey, I didn't get my Social Security this month. What the hell's going on? Well, that happens from phone calls coming in. They try to verify people. I've been in a call center and taught it, and they didn't get verified properly. Something wasn't right, or they had enough information that they could verify, and it went to a wrong account somewhere.
Yep.
So now if you want to change bank accounts, you can no longer do it online, and you can no longer do it over the phone. You have to go in person and change that with your own ID and stuff when you do that, if you're going to change bank accounts.
It happened to my wife back in August. She went to check her account to see whether the deposit went through for Social Security, and it had a line item for Social Security, but it said $0. It's like, why would I have a line item if it's $0? It makes no sense. So she called and said, you're going to have to come in the office. It's like, okay. So we went in the office. Somebody hacked her online login and changed it to one of those temporary debit cards or one of those rechargeable debit cards. And so that's where her money went for that month. They fixed it, obviously, but I don't know whether they ever got the money back. But that's another way they're doing the fraud, is the online thing. And she is not allowed to have an online account ever again because she was a victim of that fraud specifically. So, yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful. And you're right. I mean, there's so much fraud. Gosh.
I mean, I was shocked by that 40% of all calls coming to Social Security are fraudsters.
Yeah.
Nearly half. That's just, wow.
And with all these breaches, like Home Depot had one, almost every big company has had these breaches. Your information's out there. So, I mean, I had my credit card the number got stolen off of it by somebody in Kazakhstan, I think it was. And they ran up $11,000 in 3 days on my credit card. And you know how they got away with it? They called, at that time it was SunTrust in Atlanta, Georgia, and told them that they were me and I'm out of the country. Don't cancel my card. They had my Social Security number, my mother's maiden name. They had everything. And so they were like, okay. So when I had to reactivate my card, I mean, it was like pulling teeth. I was in the office and they called the main office in Atlanta and they were like going, "Are you sure it's him?" He goes, and the lady I was talking to, she said, "I've known him for years. So yes, it's him. I've got his driver's license right in front of me." But it's like, well, too little too late. You should have been had that much scrutiny when the guy called in the first place with a Russian accent, obviously.
We are out of country currently, and we would like to really have some money for playtime.
I guess with my last name, maybe that was understandable. I don't know. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the plaque that just got put up at the Minnesota State House. You're not going to believe this story, so hang in there. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Kendra Rains, and I love these two old guys. That's why I listen to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. And you should too.
Hey, Wolfman, I thought cleansing was good for my skin.
It is, but cleansing ain't enough. I've been there, I know. Once those pimples make the scene, you need heavy medicine, Clearasil.
What makes Clearasil so special?
Well, Clearasil not only dries up acne pimples and helps heal them up, it keeps on working 5-6 hours, sopping up that extra skin oil.
How come cleansers don't do all that?
They would if they could. They would if they could.
Clearasil, regular tinted and vanishing formula.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 4, we're almost ready to go home. I got to get my parka on because the Ice Age is coming.
Yes, Steve, we know we're on the end of it. Yes, he's been rather quiet lately. Yes, you can go home too when we do. Jeez.
I think that procedure he had done that is going to render him childless from now on. It's kind of quiet.
Oh, it wasn't a lobotomy?
Nah, he was sitting there with a bag of ice in his crotch. I'm guessing that's what happened. I don't know. He doesn't talk much about
took his personality away. Not that he had one, but
if that's where he kept it, maybe it should have been removed. I don't know. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Pam Altendorf. I had never heard this lady before. She's in the Minnesota State House, and she went live the other day on her social media, and she had an interesting find there at the State House in Minnesota.
Hey everyone, this is Representative Pam Altendorf coming live at you from the Minnesota State Capitol. I am on the ground floor, and as I was leaving my committee meeting today, here earlier, I noticed that there is a new display here at the state capitol, and it's for Governor Walz. It's right here on display. So let me see. I mean, I guess I can't flip my phone, but I'll see if I can show it to you. So this is what we have here, everyone. Let me read it to you. The Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers thanks Governor Tim Walz for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building. Satan has a special place for you. That's right, everyone. So the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers, they have given some sort of plaque here to Governor Tim Walz. So let me be the first, I guess, to congratulate Governor Tim Walz for this very special award that has come from the Satan Worshippers here in the Minnesota State Capitol. Yes, everyone, this is true. I am live, not making this up. You can't make this up.
Again, truth is stranger than fiction.
What? I think he said you're welcome. I don't know. Something like that.
He's got one supporter anyway.
Give me a break. Good Lord Almighty.
Goodness. You'd think that if Satan was truly behind him, you think he would have given him a little more skills as far as public speaking or something, because he's terrible. Oh,
yeah, he's not a real good representative.
No. Satan's lost a step here and there, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's news. I hadn't run across that one, so thank you for sharing, Chief.
We'll leave that one right there. Remember last week when we played a clip from Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket, which is everybody's either darling or everybody kind of like giggles.
She's been in Congress, by the way. If you haven't paid attention, people, listen to what she's saying. Some of her ghetto talk seems to have slipped.
Here and there it comes out. I mean, it's
It's like,
yeah, when she first
just
got
be
in there,
you.
she talked very differently. So, and again, that's one of those things. It's like, if somebody does that kind of thing, I'm just not sure that I trust them. And again, trust is one of those things you have to earn. But anyway, she was calling out another member of Congress and candidate for governor of the great state of Florida. And here is what she had to say. We actually played this last week, but just to remind you.
And if we continue to put people into office, and that even means some of our skinfolk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, who are going to continue to say that, like, I mean, the fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, like, is this because you don't understand history, or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you? I
don't believe he's ever said life was better under Jim Crow. I think
no. And does she not understand or know who came up with and did Jim Crow, who the problem was? It sure as hell wasn't the Republicans. It was Democrats.
No doubt. I mean, but
careful.
When you cherry pick history, that's what happens.
Careful, Jasmine. Your crookedness and stupidity is showing. Better pull that down.
Yeah. Joe Paggs had Byron Donalds, one of my favorite congressmen anyway. He's another one like the press secretary we have right now. Doesn't need notes. He's got it all up in his head, and he's a great one to have on these panels. I've heard him so many times. But anyway, he answered back kind of strongly on Joe Pag's show.
First and foremost, don't talk about my wife. Keep my wife out of this. Ain't got nothing to do with her. You can talk to me about policy anytime you want to. Secondarily, there was a couple of times on the campaign trail last year where I know I was booked to be on stage or to be in debate with Jasmine, and all of a sudden her schedule changed. She had a conflict, whatever the case might be. So if she wants to do this, if she wants to have that debate, I'm easy to find. You ain't got to look hard for me. I'm 6'2". You can find me. It's pretty easy. Number three, and most importantly, this demonstrates, frankly, the racism in the Democrat Party, because they don't have a problem when Kamala Harris is married to a white man or when Ketanji Brown Jackson's married to a white man, as long as they subscribe to the politics of the Democratic left. As long as you do that, everything is fine. But if you're a conservative, but your spouse happens to be white or of another race, then all of a sudden it's a problem. This is the racism that occurs in the Democrat Party. I'm sick of it, tired of the BS. I tell any one of them who have a concern about me and what they think my views are, debate me. And if you don't want to debate me, Google me. There's plenty of information out there, because I know that I have the facts. I have the information. I can back my stuff up. All they can do is throw out innuendos, throw out talking points. And the last thing I'll say about Ms. Crocket, and I'm going to leave it alone. Jasmine, I don't use talking points. Nobody tells me what to say. And so I know how to deliver a message because I have facts, I have logic, I use economics. I don't get into hyperbole. So if you are concerned about some of the things that I say find a show. It could be whatever show you want to. We'll sit there and do it. We'll have a good time along the way, and you'll go ahead and be defeated very quickly.
I'd pay money to see that, I think.
Oh, yes. And the reason her schedule would suddenly change is she can't match him. There's no way in hell.
I would bet no Democrat, I don't care how long in the tooth you are, would be able to go against him. I honestly don't. I think he's going to do a great job as governor of Florida. I know that Casey DeSantis, the current governor's wife, is going to run. I don't think she's put her hat in the ring yet, but I think that Byron beat her to it. So maybe she's going to sit back and maybe not do it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that he is much more popular than she is. People know much more about him and what he stands for. So I think that
he's got great common sense, and I think he would do Florida proud. Absolutely. And he takes a lot of pride in what he's doing. He's one of the few of the 400, 500, whatever it is, that the 500 that are in the House and doing stuff. And I wish him all the best. Yep. But yeah, Jasmine she is playing above her grade, if you will.
She's over her skis. That's
yes.
Oh gosh, and Richard just sent this to me this morning. I think it was. There's a new initiative from the DNC that the Democratic National Committee, if you're not familiar with the DNC is, it's a little strange. So this is the chairman of the DNC, Ken Martin, explaining what that is.
Hey, it's Ken Martin. I want to tell you about the People's Cabinet that the DNC is launching today. I have been traveling across the country nonstop since I started this job, and what I hear over and over is this. Americans want us to fight back against Trump's lies and offer a better alternative. Trump has stacked his cabinet with out-of-touch billionaires who are causing chaos and hurting working people. That's why we are launching the People's Cabinet. It will be made up of experts, leaders, and everyday Americans who will share reliable and accurate information that you can use to fight back. Stay tuned for more.
Really? So it's going to make another cabinet.
People's Cabinet. I don't know about you, but doesn't that reek of sedition?
Sounds like the People's Republic of China for some reason. That's all I can think of. But the People's Cabinet, the seditious conspiracy is what that is. Absolutely.
Yeah, and here's some of who is on that, just to give you an idea. If you really like socialism, these are some good people to have in your cabinet.
This could be for you.
Yeah. Uncle Socialism wants you. Among the featured names in the People's Cabinet are some of the most radical figures in the Democratic universe. Robert Reich is a far-left economist and co-founder of a group that traffics in class warfare and fear-mongering. Isn't that nice?
He's so nice.
Mandela Barnes, who couldn't win over voters in Wisconsin, but is now being recycled to bash Trump's policies on the national stage. Yay, another prince. And then we have Heidi Heitkamp, a former senator who wants to lecture rural America after voters sent her packing. You shouldn't have sent me packing, This is not good. And then we have another one, Martin O'Malley, failed presidential hopeful, but he's now been reinvented as a defender of Social Security against imaginary threats, which is what we've been saying today. They're all just made up crap. So let's not forget that the DNC's obsession with so-called disinformation.
And if you listen to all these last names, they're concerned about diversity too, because you have sounds like Eastern European and Irish, and it's like, okay, whatever.
It's not a good thing. So
we'll see how that shakes out. We need a palate cleanser, though.
Oh Lord, please, yes. It's been a busy day.
Richard, since opening day for baseball was a week ago last Thursday, Richard has recorded this. How long ago was it you recorded this?
Oh, it's been 4 or 5 years ago. I had a client that wanted me to do it. They were going to present it and do with their grandkids at the time, and he said they still listen to it. So
that's awesome.
That's a nice thing to hear. But anyway, it came out quite well. I was very happy with it.
If you're familiar with this, it's called Casey at the Bat. I don't know when it was first recorded. It had to be back in the 40s. That sound about right? No,
1800s.
Was it really? Oh my goodness! Wow, I was off by a few decades. Sorry, but anyway, this is Casey at the Bat with our good friend Richard Durrington.
Casey at the Bat, a poem by Ernest Lawrence Thayer, and read by Richard Durrington. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2, with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first, and Barrows did the same, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought if only Casey could get a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball, and when the dust had lifted and the men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second and Flynn a huggin' third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It pounded on the mountain and recoiled upon the flat, for Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile lit Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then, while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpires said. From the benches black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone on the stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult, he bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the dun sphere flew, but Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echoed answered, "Fraud!" But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer has fled from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and little children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
I love it. That was great. That's the best rendition I think I've ever heard. It's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, Rumble, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And you'll find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on your drive home. You can get the apps for both Apple and Android. Or, you know what, just go to our good old website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we'll see you next week, folks.
Toodles, and thanks so much for listening. We appreciate every one of you. Well, we had fun, and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh, or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.